What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is the main event deep dive live for UFC Vegas 40, and we have Norma Dumont going against Aspen Ladd, and it's crazy, Wheezy. I mean, we just got Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards announced, but people aren't talking about that. They're talking about Aspen Ladd, Norma Dumont, what could be one of the best main events of the year. I'm looking forward to it. But no, this matchup should be fun. I mean, we have Aspen Ladd, who's coming in on short notice. She was supposed to fight 2 weeks ago against Macy Chiasson. Kind of at a bad weight cut. She missed weight by 1 pound. It was actually Macy Chiasson who declined the fight. So now we see Aspen Ladd stepping in on short notice for Holly Holm, going against Dumont here, up a weight class. And yeah, really interested to hear your thoughts, Wheezy, and also you guys in the chats, your thoughts on this fight as well. Me and Wheezy have been doing these main event deep dives, but we decided I think it'd be fun to go live and kind of interact in the chat as far as we go. So what's up, Wheezy? How you doing? You looking forward to this main event?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Just got finished, studying the tape on this one. Two very interesting fighters, two fighters who do certain things very well. So the stylistic matchup that we're looking at here is a great one to analyze. Can't wait to get into the stats with you guys and the people in the chat. Yeah, as far as this main event goes, it's obviously not going to be one of those ones that, puts a lot of asses in the seats, but the thing is it's an opportunity to make money. 11 fights on this card. This main event is a good one, and the line's moving, so maybe we can find some spots for everybody.
Yep, for sure. Can't wait to get into it. We have Hank Hill, first one in the chat. Headley one saying, betting Ladd equals lighting money on fire. Almost a 2-year layoff, bad weight cut last week, and now in a 5-round fight. Dumont faded versus Spencer, but that was on short notice. Dumont is on the rise. Prodigy saying they gave Ladd this fight so she can lose and have the reason to cut her, maybe. Headley one also saying Ladd edged out Kunitsukai in rounds 1 and rounds 2 before round 3 ground and pound, and that was at 135. Dumont has better striking defense, takedown defense. Dumont by decision or hedge Ladd by KO. Cody in the chat as well saying, let's go, boys. Like the video up. I agree. Let's get those likes up. Daz is on. Cortez talking some contender series. I saw you in there as well. Sosa, any locks on the card? Nothing is a lock, but I do like Marquez quite a bit. I know Wheezy likes Marquez as well. First ever fight night headlined by women's featherweights. I'm not sure. Wheezy, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was. Featherweights. So no, didn't we have we had Holm Durandamy back in the day. Okay. That was a main event fight, and that was at 145. That was when they created the title for those two to fight for. I think Cyborg might have vacated the title or something like that, and then we did have Holly Holm fight GDR. So that was a women's featherweight headliner. If there's been another one, I can't think of it.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. Wario in the chat. Hey, Wheezy. I'm Brady. You guys are killing these early deep dives. So sharp all around. Keep slaying the game. Appreciate you. Sosa in the chat. Get Darst. Hi, Brady. Hi. Get Darst. How you doing? Marcel in the chat as well. All right, Wheezy. So I say we get into it, and let's start with the tail of the tape. So we have Aspen Ladd going against Norma Dumont. We have Ladd, who is 26 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach, going against Norma Dumont, who is 31 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. So Ladd is going to be 5 years younger, but she's going to have a 1-inch height disadvantage, and she's also going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage as well. We'll take a look at their last few fights. Norma Dumont is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She did make her UFC debut against Megan Anderson, and it was funny. I remember watching an interview with Norma Dumont talking about before the Anderson fight that she was going to beat Amanda Nunes one day. And I thought that was pretty funny, but no, she lost to Anderson by knockout. After that, she beat Ashley Evans Smith by decision. She looked really good in that fight. She showed off her striking. And then after that, she did beat Felicia Spencer by a split decision. So 4-1 in her last 5 fights. As far as Aspen Ladd, she had a knockout win over Lena Landsberg, a knockout win over Tanya Evinger, a decision loss against Ciara Eubanks, a knockout loss to GDR, and then a knockout win over Yana Kunitsukai, which that fight was about 2 years ago. So Ladd coming back from a long layoff, coming back from multiple, serious injuries. I believe an MCL and an ACL as well. Coming off of a pretty bad weight cut. But yeah, this fight is pretty interesting in terms of, stylistically. So easy. Let's get into the experience stats here.
Absolutely. So we got Aspen Ladd with a little bit of an experience edge here, having 10 pro fights comparison to 7 for Dumont. And we got about 17 more minutes in the cage for Ladd. About a year and a half more as a pro, and we've got Aspen has half of her pro experience is at the UFC level, and it's just under half for Dumont. A little couple more minutes in the cage, but the experience numbers are really pretty close. But you got to give a slight edge to Ladd here. But it's where we go into these finish numbers where we see a difference. So Aspen Ladd, 9 professional wins. 7 of them have come by inside the distance wins, whether it be by 1 by submission, 6 by knockout. When what's funny about that is that the only woman that she's never been to a finish with was Sijara Eubanks, and that's twice. Aspen Ladd beat Sijara Eubanks twice. Those are her only decision wins. Every single one of her other opponents, Aspen Ladd has finished inside the distance. Norma Dumont has 6 professional wins. 2 of them are by submission, none by knockout, which is strange because she's got heavy hands and she's got great stand-up. So it's interesting that in her 6 wins, she's never knocked anyone out. However, I have seen her, her ground game be all right before. There was one of her wins prior to her getting into the UFC. I think it was the Erica Ledian fight. Ledian tried to take her down. Dumont reversed it, got her on the ground, and just really abused her on the ground. I mean, really showed a fantastic ground game there. But it's Aspen Ladd's ground and pound that really kind of is the X factor in this fight. This is how she finishes fights. She sounds like there's this when I walk my dog, there's this Chihuahua across the street, right? And it's mean. Chihuahuas are fucking mean, Brady. They're really mean. They're bred to kill rats. That's basically what they're for. All right. And my dog's a Rottweiler. He's 120 pounds almost. He's huge. But he doesn't even want to walk by that fence because that dog is so mean and so crazy. And when it barks at my dog, that's what Aspen Ladd sounds like when she's ground and pounding somebody out. It's actually pretty terrifying. It terrifies my Rottweiler, but that's what she's like. She's like a rabid dog when she gets on top of people. And that noise, while it being very annoying, it's showing that she's, exhaling with every shot and she's putting everything that she has into every shot. This is how she finishes fights. She's finished everybody in her career, not named Sijara Eubanks. So it's a very interesting stylistic matchup because a lot of people are talking about this as like, oh, Ladd's just got to get it to the ground, right? And once she gets it to the ground, that's when she's in her world. But Norma's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. She's got all of her finished wins are by submission. And both of these ladies, the only loss that they have on their record is also coming inside the distance by knockout. So, yeah, when we look at the finish stats, when we look at the experience stats, we can kind of see, how these ladies like to finish fights and what the stylistic matchup is starting to shape up to look like, Brady.
Yeah, I saw that too. Dumont with 0 knockouts. I believe she knocked down Ashley Evans Smith, so it does look like she hits hard, but a knockout has not came yet. And I'm with you. I have saw hers get some submissions as well. And yeah, fully agree. Like if Aspen Ladd is able to get this fight down to the mat, that's where she's going to have success. That's her bread and butter. Getting it down to the mat, that ground and pound is very vicious. She goes after it. Like you mentioned, all the dog noises. Like I like those. And yeah, I think if she does get the fight down to the mat, she could have success down there. But I don't know if it's going to be that easy. I mean, coming up a weight class, coming in on short notice, mind you, she was supposed to fight Chiazon, but after a bad weight cut, and JSJ brings up a very interesting question because I don't really have an answer for this, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Wheezy. Who do you give the cardio edge to? Because Dumont, we saw her slow down bad in the Spencer fight to the point where she, for one, took down Spencer. Spencer was able to get back up, and then she goes to take her down again, and she kind of just rolls over and allows Spencer to get on top in that third round. I did not like seeing that. And then as far as Ladd, she's coming off of 2 major injuries. She's coming off of a 2-year layoff. She's coming off of a very bad weight cut. She's cutting weight once more. How's Ladd's gas tank going to look in a 5-round fight? So any thought on who's going to have the better gas tank? Because I literally have no clue. I have question marks about both of them.
I would say Ladd, and that's just from what I've seen in the Eubanks fights, the Kunitskaya fight, the Landsberg fight. When you watch her before the fight and in between rounds, she looks like she's very calm. She looks like she uses her energy very well, but I never really seen her even breathing heavy in between rounds. Have you noticed that as well? I mean, think about the Landsberg fight and the Eubanks fight in particular. When they bring the camera into Ladd's corner, she's she's like looking at her coaches. She doesn't seem to be heaving for air, like struggling for air. So, and she does push a very heavy pace. Ladd is always moving forward, always grappling. We see that when we look at her grappling numbers, 72% of her fights take place in control time positions, and I've never really seen her slow down. So I will give the edge to Ladd. But that being said, if Aspen Ladd is trying to offensively wrestle a woman as big and thick as Norma Dumont, that if anything will drain your gas tank, that will, because we see Kunitskaya, Eubanks, Evinger, Landsberg. Now, what's interesting is the Kunitskaya made her debut in the UFC at 145 fighting Cyborg. Lena Landsberg, I think, also made her debut against Cyborg at 145. So she's fought women who have fought at 145 before, but they're not really natural 145ers. Dumont, I think, is really a natural 145er. I don't think she's ever weighed in at 135. I don't think she's ever made weight there. So, yeah, if anybody is going to drain that gas tank of Aspen Ladd, it's Norma Dumont. But I do think Ladd will have the conditioning advantage here.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, my problem is cutting weight again. And I think, taking a look at the weigh-ins is going to be, key in this fight. I want to see how Ladd looks on the scales. Like, she looked awful in the last fight, and she's not going to have to cut as much weight this time, but she's still going to have to cut weight once again to get down to 145, you got to imagine. So I want to see Ladd on the scales. And I also want to see Dumont on the scales, and I want to see how they size up against each other, because on paper, Dumont's going to have a 1-inch height advantage, but I think the thicker fighter is going to be Dumont. And I think she's going to be a lot thicker than Aspen Ladd. So I kind of want to see them size up before I make any wagers on this fight. And I also want to see how Ladd does look on the scales as well. So we'll get into the striking stats here, Wheezy. And, I think if Aspen Ladd cannot get this fight down to the mat, I think it's going to be a really tough time for her on the feet. Like Dumont, when she came into the UFC against Megan Anderson, I thought she was a grappler, because you take a look at her fights outside of the UFC, from what I can watch, and I think there's only like 2 fights out there, she's taking down fighters and she's submitting them. And I thought, hey, she's a grappler. She's going to take down Megan Anderson. And she did. Anderson got back up and knocked her out. And then going into the Ashley Evans-Smith fight, I thought, maybe Ashley Evans-Smith can have some success on the feet. But no, Norma Dumont outlanded her. And she not only outlanded her, but outlanded her like 93 to like 40. And that really opened up my eyes, because I thought of Dumont like she's some, grappler, which she is, but it just showed me that Dumont's actually really well-rounded. She has a brown belt in BJJ, and she's a really good striker. I like the volume. I like the output. Same thing, but, she hits pretty hard as well. She knocked down Ashley Evans-Smith. So, yeah, on the feet, I do favor Dumont quite a bit. Curious to hear the stats on this one.
Yeah, so let's look at Ladd first, and we're seeing a positive striking differential, always a good thing to see. 5.22 significant strikes a minute landed for Ladd, 4.84 absorbed. She's got 55% striking accuracy. She does have a knockdown, 1 knockdown and 192 significant strikes landed, so that's averaging 0.41 knockdowns per 15 minutes. The thing that jumps out about Aspen Ladd when you watch the tape on her and when you look at the numbers is that 46% striking defense. On the feet, Brady, she's very, very hittable. Eubanks, who's not known for her stand-up, was definitely getting the better of the stand-up exchanges in their fight. The Kunitskaya fight took place almost entirely on the cage and on the ground. Evinger, the same situation. Lena Landsberg muscled Aspen Ladd for the first round of that fight and was very successful in the dirty boxing, keeping Ladd up against the cage. Lena Landsberg, like I say, a natural 135er as opposed to 145er. So what bothers me from what I saw on tape in particular, Brady, was how hittable Aspen Ladd was on the feet, and that she wasn't necessarily stronger than her opponents. In particular, Landsberg and Eubanks and Kunitskaya all had some success kind of controlling her on the cage and not letting Ladd kind of control the clinch exchanges. Because Dumont has shown really good striking. And when you look at the distance striking on the feet, Dumont is just much cleaner. And she looks like she's going to be the one that hits way harder. We do have 1 knockdown as well for Norma Dumont and 167 significant strikes landed. She's got a 53% striking accuracy. she's landing over 2 more significant strikes than she absorbs. So 4.98 landed per minute, only 2.86 absorbed. And then the big difference here is a 67% striking defense for Norma Dumont in comparison to a 46% striking defense for Aspen Ladd. And both these ladies have been knocked down. Norma Dumont has been knocked down once in 96 significant strikes absorbed. That was in the Megan Anderson fight. So she's been knocked down 0.45 times in 15 minutes. And and Norma Dumont actually has two. I'm sorry, only one knockdown. My fault. But anyway, Aspen Ladd has been knocked down as well, 0.56% of the time, 0.41 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. So both these ladies, if you land on them, they'll go down. And they've both shown to have some power themselves in the past. But in my opinion, from what I've seen on tape, this is going to be Dumont's fight as long as it stays on the feet. The problem is what I did not see in the tape was how Dumont reacts when she's being constantly pressured. Because what I do see from Aspen Ladd on the feet is that she's always moving forward. Even when she's throwing, she's moving forward. She will use her striking to enter into the clinch to get some of those trip takedowns that she's gotten in the past. So I want to know what you think about Aspen Ladd's pressure and how that's going to change Norma Dumont's game plan here on the feet.
Yeah, on the feet, I mean, I think she can deal well with pressure, right? I mean, Aspen Ladd's probably going to come forward. She's probably going to come. She's hittable, like you mentioned, the 46% strike in defense. But Ladd's going to, come forward, and she's trying to get on the inside, and she's going to try to look for that takedown. Yeah, I also noticed what you noticed as well with in terms of the strength. It really surprised me that I saw a lot of fighters that were actually looking, strong, very strong at times against Aspen Ladd, where I can see Dumont, looking very strong as well. She's a very strong fighter, a very big fighter as well. Yeah, but I think what Aspen Ladd is going to try to do is pressure forward, try to close the distance, and then get this fight down to the mat. If she can't, I think she's going to get hit. I think she's going to get pieced apart. But if she can get on top of Dumont, that's where she's going to have success. The big thing for me in this fight is you go back and watch. You can watch every single Dumont fight there is out there, and there was no instance. I don't know if you caught it, but nobody has been able to take down Dumont, not in the UFC, not outside of the UFC. I've seen people, shooting on for a takedown here or there. She's able to stuff it easily. But, going back to that Felicia Spencer fight, Weezy, I know you hate that fight because me and you we were pretty high on Spencer. We thought that the black belt in Spencer, the grappler in Spencer would maybe take down Dumont. Maybe the grappler would take down Dumont and use her ground game. But no, Felicia Spencer in that fight attempted 0 takedowns, which still to this day, it shocks me because, you're not going to win a fight against Norma Dumont on the feet. To beat Norma Dumont, you probably got to take her down. And Spencer didn't do that. So I had question marks about Dumont's takedown defense. How good is it? I had question marks about Dumont off her back. How good is she? And none of those questions got answered because Felicia Spencer came in there with, a very questionable game plan. So it's just hard to call because if Aspen Ladd does get this fight down to the mat, I think she's going to have success. Is it going to be one takedown and the fight's over shortly after? I don't think so. Dumont's a brown belt in BJJ. I'm sure she's capable off her back. But, that's where Ladd's going to have the most of her success, landing that vicious ground and pound that she has. But, is she able to get it there? That's the big question for me. Is Aspen Ladd able to get it there, Weezy? So I guess just talk about the numbers a little bit in terms of the grappling stats here.
Yeah, I'll talk about the numbers and I'll talk about what I saw on tape. So Ladd, we mentioned this already. If you add up the control time for and against for Aspen Ladd, you're going to see a number that approaches 72% of her fights are taking place in control time positions. That means that she's only at striking range 28% of the time. What that always tells me is that's where the fighter is going to be the least comfortable. So, you want to see fighters fighting towards their win condition. And Aspen Ladd is somebody that does that in spades because she is very good in the clinch. She's very good getting those Greco-Roman style trip takedowns, sweeps, trips, reaps, those kind of takedowns that are high percentage. And that when you do get them, you're already in an advantageous position on top. It actually kind of saves you a lot of work on the ground when you can get those kind of takedowns. And she's been very successful doing that. But I've also seen her opponents have some success taking her down. For instance, in the Eubanks fight, Eubanks went up there and absolutely bodied her in the first round. And it took Aspen Ladd maybe about a minute and a half to get back up to her feet, and then she wound up getting on top for the rest of the round. But Ladd does keep these fights in control time positions for a very high percentage of the fight. And I think she's going to do the exact same thing against Dumont here. It's just we're going to find out how strong Dumont is. Dumont, in 3 UFC fights, has 10 takedown attempts. She's gotten 4 of them. She's getting 1.79 takedowns per 15 minutes and about 23% control time in her own right, giving up 10% control time. Now, the 10% control time for Dumont came in the Spencer fight when Dumont went to go get a takedown and Spencer reversed her. So we did see Felicia Spencer get on top, and once Spencer got on top, she spent the rest of the round there. So that is very important to note. I had to go back and watch that fight, which hurt me, Brady. Because I even got that ticket at minus 160, and Felicia Spencer closed minus 200 because that was what the bettors were thinking. Now we're going to find out what Dumont's ground game is like. And it wasn't until Dumont initiated the wrestling exchanges that we saw her get reversed. And then Spencer wind up on top. And then Dumont did not have an answer for Spencer being on top of her. So that does give me some pause on the Dumont side. But yeah, 100% takedown defense for Dumont. All 3 takedown attempts against have been stuffed. And she's only been controlled for 3.5 minutes or 3.35 minutes of her UFC career. So, it's definitely a clash of styles. Will Ladd's clinch game be strong enough to handle Dumont there? Will she be able to get it to the ground? Because if not, I think Dumont could potentially overpower Ladd in the clinch, even get Ladd's back to the ground, but also, potentially just keep the fight in the center of the cage where she's going to be landing the heavier punches, and Aspen Ladd's striking defense will let her down if this stays standing for too long. And I think that Dumont might be strong enough to keep this on the feet. That's kind of what I've been seeing. But I do think that if Aspen Ladd uses all of her energy to get it down there, and she does get it down there successfully, we could see her potentially come very close to finishing the fight.
Yeah, she could. I mean, with that ground and pound, with the screaming that she does, I could very well see a scenario where, especially late in the fight, like if Dumont does slow down like she did in the Spencer fight, and she kind of is just laying on her back in the 3rd round like she did there, I could see Ladd pounding her out for sure. Yeah, it's a tough fight to call. I mean, Dumont, I could even see Dumont going for takedowns and getting them. She has solid wrestling. She's big. I could see her getting on top and kind of smothering Aspen Ladd, using her size there. But yeah, it's a tough one. There's just so many red flags. Somebody brought up in the chat, like there's so many red flags of, for Aspen Ladd in this fight. I can start naming them off. MCL, she had an MCL injury, ACL injury, multiple surgeries, 2-year layoff, just had a terrible weight cut 2 weeks ago against Maisie Chiasson. Chiasson actually was the one to decline the fight, which makes no sense to me. And then she's coming back again 2 weeks later, main event, short notice, cutting weight once again. So there's just so much red flag coming up a weight class. This is going to be Aspen Ladd's first fight at 145 pounds. Going to be the smaller fighter. But yeah, I kind of like Dumont here in terms of she's going to be the more well-rounded fighter, because it's not like she's a fish out of water on the map by any means. I just think that's where Ladd's going to have most of success in the fight. But yeah, on the feet, I do favor Dumont here quite a bit. I like her output. I like how hard she does hit. She's more defensively sound than an Aspen Ladd. But I guess the one thing that does concern me, and there's not a lot of things that I don't like on the Dumont side. I think she's a very well-rounded fighter. I just think a lot of people just, don't know a lot about her. Nobody really knows who Norma Dumont is, and I'm still trying to figure out who Norma Dumont is. I thought we'd, get some question answered against the Felicia Spencer fight, but again, Spencer didn't even try to take her down. So I still don't know how good her takedown defense is, how good her get-up game is for the most part. But yeah, it's a tough one to call. I kind of lean towards the Dumont side. Anything sticking out in terms of the strength of schedule, Weezy?
Yeah, it's definitely better for Ladd. We've got a 1.58 ratio of wins to losses in Ladd's opponents, while Norma Dumont overall losing record competition of 0.78 ratio. So the average Aspen Ladd opponent has 3.8 wins, 2.4 losses, while the average Dumont opponent has 2.33 wins and 3 losses. So Aspen Ladd fighting the better competition in terms of record and slightly more experienced competition. And then when you look at the wins, they're better for Ladd. 1.3 ratio to 0.83 for Dumont, winning record, but just as experienced, the opponents. And then when you look at the losses, Dumont's only lost to Megan Anderson, and Megan Anderson has a 2-3 record because she's been fighting Nunez a couple of. Did she fight Nunez once or twice?
I want to say once. I think.
Was it just once? Okay, but it's her only loss in the UFC, and it's her only loss as a pro. While Aspen Ladd's only loss came to Jermaine Durandamy, and that was after that absolutely horrific weight cut, and it was the first one too that dropped her, and that fight was stopped quickly. That one was at 135 too, so it was a vicious weight cut for Aspen. So, one thing that I would caution everybody to do is to wait until the weigh-ins on this fight, because we really do need to see both of these ladies on the scale. You got to believe that Ladd has the better strength of schedule, having fought Jermaine Durandamy, Sijara Eubanks twice, a veteran like Tanya Evinger, Lena Landsberg, Yana Kunitskaya. The list goes on, and she was, had some pretty high-level fights in Invicta prior to coming to the UFC as well. While Dumont, like you say, we just don't know much about her. I would say, the best win on that resume prior to the UFC was definitely Mariana Moraes, and Moraes is huge. She's like a big 145er. So, we have seen Dumont, handle some of this bigger competition that we haven't seen Ladd fight 145ers yet. So that's a big X factor here. It's a really, really interesting fight, Brady. There's a lot of reasons to like both of these fighters.
Yeah, it's we'll take a look at the odds here. And if you guys in the chat, let me know who you guys have. Do you have Aspen Ladd or Norma Dumont? And we do see that Ladd opened up as a minus 160 favorite. She went all the way down to a minus 110 pick'em, and she is now back down to minus 139. We see that Norma Dumont is plus 140, opened up. She went all the way down to minus 110 pick'em, and she is now at plus 119. I'm really curious to see where this line moves. Weezy, when we broke down this fight on Stat Diggers last night, Norma Dumont was plus 138 on Bet Online. She's now plus 119. I'm going to keep waiting it out, see where the line goes. I want to see the weigh-ins before I make a wager on this fight. But for me, there's still a ton of question marks in this fight, and I'd rather be on the dog money. And Norma Dumont, the fighter that I feel like has more paths to victory with the striking. I think she could also take down Ladd than laying chalk with Aspen Ladd, who just has so many red flags like the layoff, the injuries, the weight cut, the 2 weight cuts. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning on the dog money. We see that the over 2.5 rounds is minus 250. The under 2.5 rounds is plus 200. I think it probably does squeak over. I think it may potentially could finish like later in the fight. We see that the under 4.5 rounds is plus 130. The over 4.5 rounds is minus 160. The fight goes to decision is minus 155, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 155. Ladd inside the distance is plus 225. Dumont inside the distance is plus 430. Ladd by decision plus 200. And Dumont by decision is plus 230. Any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on any props that stick out?
Yeah, plus money for an under 4.5 in a 5-round fight where I don't think either of these ladies. I mean, Aspen Ladd has only been a full 3 rounds 2 times in her career in 10 fights. And then, we do know that she, we had the rough weight cut, the knee injuries. And then we do know that Dumont, hits super hard and is big. Just going to be the biggest woman that Ladd has fought thus far. And we've seen Ladd get muscled, so I could see this getting really greasy going into the 3rd or 4th round here. So an under 4.5 at plus money actually sounds like the most intriguing bet to me out of anything here, because I was kind of, after I watched the tape today, I kind of said to myself, I'm going to see if I can find Norma at 140. And then, like you mentioned, it's down around 118 now, and it's just not as intriguing there. Both of them have paths, Brady. That's the problem here. That's what's making this so difficult for me to pick, because if this stays standing, Dumont's going to do well. And I could also see Dumont having the better dirty boxing and clinch game here. But if it gets to the ground with Aspen on top, and she's able to keep her, she's able to stay heavy, control her on top, and use that ground and pound, I could see this finishing. And I could see Aspen Ladd potentially really breaking after the third round, if she's unable to get this fight to the ground, get it to her world, where she's spending 72% of her fights in control time positions, the longer this stays on the feet, we could see her getting hit and accruing a lot of damage and potentially this thing getting stopped. So, yeah, the one thing that's sticking out to me is that plus money on the under 4.5. Might have to sprinkle that.
Yep, I can see. I don't hit a shot on that as well. I mean, yeah, just so many question marks. It's really hard to get there in terms of a bet. But like I said, I'd probably take a shot on the plus money Dumont instead. But it looks like the line is closing up, which I'm going to keep waiting out, see where it goes. And Jay brings up a good point. He's keeping it small, but on Dumont, got to see the weigh-ins, and then Chief saying as well, I'll have to see how Aspen looks on the scales. That seems to be what people are thinking, and me as well. I have to see how Lad looks on the scales. I have to see how they size up. Daz with the dono, appreciate you, Daz, hanging out here. Lad should bring a ice cream to the weigh-ins. Maybe she will, but yeah, I think we're going to see Lad at the weigh-ins for sure. Roy's saying even if Lad looks okay on the scales, I don't think I can trust her in this spot. Yeah, just so many red flags, so many question marks as well. Like usually in a main event, like there's not this many question marks, but there is. Aspen Ladd versus the scale is the actual main event. Yeah, that's her toughest opponent apparently. Because yeah, that was bad. That was very bad. Last 2 weeks ago. If she misses weight, what will the main event be? Yeah, if this fight is off, which hopefully it's not, I don't think it will be. Felipe versus Arlovsky will be the main event instead. Aspen Ladd momentum has been already derailed, so it won't be much to see her lose out on a title shot. Isn't she coming off an ACL reconstruction or something like that as well? Yeah, ACL, MCL, a couple surgeries there. And hammering, come on. This is a main event, but if thoughts on Felipe, I would stay far, far away from that fight. But I did break it down on my full card breakdown and prediction video that I just posted about an hour ago. So, Weezy, I guess we can close with this. Any final thoughts on the fight? Anything else you'd like to add?
A lot of missing information here for me. How is Ladd going to look coming off the knee reconstructions? How is she going to look at 145? Is Norma Dumont too big for her to take down and hold down? And then only, what is Norma Dumont going to look like in a 5-round fight? Is she going to have her own problems on the scale? I have no problem waiting until see both of these ladies on the scale and then use my preconceived notions going into that, figuring out the information I get at the weigh-in to maybe get myself into a bet. But there's so much missing information from me on this fight that I don't feel compelled to bet it, because there's some other spots that I'm already just going to hammer and already have hammered on this card, man. I might be heavy on this one. So I'm not just chomping at the bit to get action on this one as well, unless I see something at weigh-ins that leans me one way or another.
Yeah, me too. I'll be honest. I would have a bet on Norma Dumont right now if I didn't go back and watch that Spencer fight in the third round where she kind of, tired out, kind of fell over and let Spencer get on top. I'd have a bet on her then. I'd also have a bet on her if this was a 3-round fight. The extra 2 rounds does sketch me out because I really don't know. Is Ladd going to be the fresher fighter coming off of that layoff, coming off of cutting weight twice? Or is Dumont going to be the fresher fighter? I just don't know. So yeah, you're right, Weezy. Tons and tons of question marks on this fight. I think it's really hard to be confident one way or another. DJ DXJC saying, have we seen Norma on the ground offer back yet? Just a little bit against Felicia Spencer. She was offered back a little bit. She kind of looked like she gave up towards the end of the fight, and she didn't really have anything for Spencer. Kind of was just content to just lay there for the duration of the fight.
Yeah, you have to watch round 3 of that fight to see all of the footage that we have of Norma Dumont on the ground in the UFC. And it's not a lot of information, DXJC. But yeah, that's the one you got to watch. Watch that Spencer Dumont fight, and you can skip right to round 3 if you want to see what either of these ladies look like on the ground, because you have to wait until then to see it.
Yeah, and like you said, it was weird because it was Dumont that was initiating the takedown.
That's right. So, that's right. I think she wanted to prove a point there because she had already won those first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I'll never understand that game plan for Spencer ever.
Nope.
All right, but I think we covered. I thought we broke it down pretty good. I thought we dug into about everything we can. Like, I think a lot of question marks should be. I mean, I would be shocked if Ladd came in here with a Felicia Spencer game plan and just tried to outstrike her for 25 minutes. I think we'll see Dumont try to stuff some takedowns here. So yeah, my advice to everybody is going to be wait for the weigh-in, see how Aspen Ladd looks, see how they do size up, and then make your choice from there. So yeah, that's about it. Weezy, let them know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week. I know you have a busy week coming up.
Yeah, for sure, man. Find me on Twitter at MMA Wheezy, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy. I will be on Pub Sports Radio with Brady tomorrow night doing our DraftKings show with AJ MMA Betting and Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting. And I will be doing, I'm going to be doing a late night balls deep breakdown on my channel tonight. The first fight that I'm going to be doing this week, Brady, is going to be the Sanchez Silva fight. I think it's a really interesting middleweight matchup here. We've only seen Bruno Blindado Silva once in the UFC thus far, so I want to watch all of his pre-UFC tape and see if we can find some leans in that fight. I will be going live after the Contender Series tomorrow night on my channel for my full card breakdown called Just the Tip. I'm going to give a Hammering Hog a greasy 4-leg parlay, and I'll give you guys the ass shaving of the week at the end of it. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm gonna go over to Pub Sports Radio right now and watch Clinton MMA Lock in the Night break down this card as well. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for having me on, Brady. You guys have a great day. Let's cash some tickets on this UFC Vegas 40 card.
For sure. Yeah. If you guys do like this concept, let us know. We thought instead of recording it like late on a Sunday night, we thought, hey, we'll just, do it on a Monday with you guys in the chat, kind of interact back and forth. I think I kind of like this better. What wouldn't you say, so Weezy?
You like this one better for? Oh yeah, I love doing the always when I get to chat with the chat, it's awesome because they will bring up things and sometimes have some information that you and I don't have, and vice versa. And it kind of helps us all to share information together, get the best reads we could possibly get. I think it's a great way to do this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Adrian saying Tom Breeze every week with Adrian sending salutes from the gym. There you go. Sadly, I can't spam the chat Friday. It's on. There we go. This fight will finish, he says, leaning on the Norma side. Jack saying nice choice, Wheezy. Luke saying balls, a deep baby. What's up, 2 cents? How you doing? Appreciate that, Chief. Appreciate that Headley one as well. Yeah, if you guys can leave a like again, it'd be much appreciated. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be going live tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio with Uncle Weezy and the guys doing the DraftKings breakdown Friday after the weigh-in show, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and then Saturday 1 hour before the prelims. I think the prelims start at 4. We'll be going live at 3. Me, Weezy, Narco Cop, and a very special guest that I don't even think Weezy knows. I'll have to tell him after we get out of here, but a very special guest coming on Saturday as well. That's but it, guys. Leave a like. See you guys soon, and good luck for UFC Vegas 40 Aspen Lad going against Norma Dumont, card of the